Ladies and gentlemen, I am so terribly pleased to bring back a wonderful, talented artist, producer, multimedia guy, international poet, the charming and talented, the wise brother Fin Hall. Fin, welcome, sir. I cannot thank you enough how happy I am to see you. I hope you're well.
I am very well, great, thank you. As always, it's great to be here. It's great to be talking in the poetry world, which
Now, if I'm not mistaken, I understand you're going to let blot lapse a little bit and get some time to be a person, a human, walk around, live a life before you come
yeah, my
back.
plan was to my plan was to knock it in the head for 2 months and then come back. We're already lined up for coming back in June, and we've got wonderful Meher Pashonji is our feature poet. But I've got a sneaking feeling that I'm not doing April. I'm making an individual film, a film that basically is me. It's,
Wow.
self-indulgent time. And it's a project called Act My Age, which is a bunch of
Oh,
poems I've written over the past 17 years about being this wonderful age that I am. And I've got two more excerpts, two more little videos to make. And if I can get them done, one of them involves help from other people. And it's trying to get that. Um, if I can get them done, then I will probably be back in May as opposed to June. And instead of having a feature on Block, we'll just show my film. That'll be my rare trip into self-indulgence and
oh, I think of it as a chance to experience the art and gifts of Brother Finn Hall. Self-indulgent. Was Francis Ford Coppola self-indulgent? Was Tim Burton self-indulgent? No, you make a film. You do wonderful work, sir.
yeah, this one is different because it is all the films I make I rely on other people. Then I do the editing and the twisting and whatever. Um, but yeah, this one is just me. I've had one person had to read something before, but there's a scene that I want to do that could be quite tricky in a public place that I need someone to film it, you know, or I'll film them doing it. But it's a I tell you, it's a bit for a walking backwards in a crowd. So the public are walking and walking backwards, and then reverse the film. So they're all walking backwards, and the person's walking forward. And
Ah, nice,
I
nice.
can't do that on my own. I need someone to either film it or be that walking backwards person.
Let me tell you a funny little story. When um, when I did my first big media project, I had won some poetry contests. A gentleman approached me, said, "Listen, I'm a radio producer here in the local public radio station. I'd like to offer you a show. I think what you do is interesting and thought-provoking. And what kind of show would you do?" And he was, of course, thinking, "Well, I know this guy is a poet. He's going to do a poetry show." And before I even thought about it, my mouth said a science fiction comedy called Martian Ambassador and the Captured Chorus. I said, "What?" I said, "Martian Ambassador and the Captured Chorus." I said, "I love science fiction. I write all the time, and I would love if you're offering me a show. That's what I want to do. Is that okay?" And he goes, "Yeah, sure. What the hell?" But you know what? I had the hardest time getting the son of a gun. We did this live. We did a live hour of comedy. And I wrote 80% of it, and we stole the rest from Mark Twain and this guy and that guy and Benchley and those cats from the 20s and 30s. But anyway, he never remembered to hit record. So all of these shows just went out in the air, and I'd say, Mark, will you record this? So I learned early on to have if I wanted it to be recorded, if I wanted help, I have to back up my request for help. So I totally understand your problem.
You
So
forgot to record it. It's one thing forgetting to record a Zoom show or something like that, but when you when you're doing something else, man. Wow.
so
There you go.
let me ask you. Here we are. We're on Poets of the East. The point of this is to learn a little bit more about poets, learn about what it is that brought them to this place, what inspiration they had. Tell us, Finn, how what are some of your earliest memories of literature, of writing, of books?
Well, I remember two things. The first two books that I had ever read, one as a toddler, as preschool, I think. And I have relatives in New Jersey. They were like my granny's sisters, offsprings and things like that, so it's second, third cousins, whatever. And they used to send Christmas gifts over. In the 50s, Christmas gift from America was like, whoa, that's something different. And the first book I got was a book, I think it was called The Big Red Fire Engine. And it was just a picture book of guys going to a fire in the old fire engines, when they would stand along the running board along the side, that kind of thing, and big, huge helmets. That was my first book. And then my first um, written book, novel, whatever, and I bought it from the library, and it was a classic, and I can't remember, it was either Kidnapped or Treasure Island, one of the two of them. That that kept my love for classics over the years. Because I don't read as much as I do because I'll be honest, I fall asleep.
Well, you
But I
have an
need,
active mind, and when you start to just sit still and relax and kind of go into another space, I believe me, I understand it's very easy to fall asleep reading, and
yeah.
especially as we get into our advanced adolescence.
I used to read two books at a time. One in the taxi when I was working and one at home. But I'll be honest, I don't read as much now. I read poetry books when I get them because they're great because you can nip in and out of them. They're the ideal coffee table book, even if they're only like 5 by 7, because you can nip in, read some stuff, put it down again. You don't have to read a whole book. Unless you're reviewing a book, obviously. Then if I'm reviewing a book, I do tend to read it all. But yeah,
Well,
that's it. And when it comes to writing, my first writing, I think we spoke about this before, is when I was quite late to the pen, as it were. I was about 18 or something when I can't sing and I can't play a musical instrument, but I used to make songs up in my head and write the lyrics down. And some of which, they're all here, but some of which survive today and have transformed into poetry. And then when I heard Leonard Cohen, Famous Blue Raincoat was my top song, and I thought, oh, that is poetry. I can, and that was my inspiration to sort of twist the lyrics the more, uh, not always storytelling, but make it more, oh, you can read this out. You don't need to have uh, tunes to go along with it.
well, I have to ask you now. This is normally one of the end questions, but what's open on your desk right now? What are you reading right now?
Um, I'm actually, truthful, when I've been working is reading Ian McKenzie's book that I'm publishing. I'm just editing that just now and I'm going through that and trying trying to get it in the right size. You send it through and it comes in one size, you've got to shrink it and then move it. So I'm just doing that just now. And his book is called Going to Montana in My Mind, Poems from a Coffee Shop. So it's Ian. And it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful piece.
A marvelous writer. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
couldn't agree with you more.
So that's what I'm doing just now. And then I also, um, last night when I was on with you on Beehive, I decided there, I did mention, I decided there and then that after Ian's book, I'm going to put an anthology of anti-Trump poems up, get that out. So
It's a
I've
fertile ground, sir. Fertile ground.
it's fine. The way it is just now, it's fine for us who don't want to travel to the States in the next 4 or 5 years. I worry at times about the American contributions. I mean, it's a poetry book. It's never got to be like a bestseller or stuff like that, but you just need one person to read it. Like you saw with the German scientist or something. It is coming in, and then the punk band UK subs were coming in, and because they said somebody anti-Trump, they didn't, So, but yeah, I'm going to do that. That's going to be interesting to see because you've seen people have done it. You've done it. We've all written something, either in your face or in roundabout ways about the whole guy. But something a sideline. Excuse me. I just discovered today that next year, United States is supposed to be hosting the World Cup soccer football cup in the United States. That's got to be interesting. That, and then 2 years' time after that, it's the Olympics. How are they going to deal with that? I
Well, they
mean,
won't
they're
let any foreigners in, that's for sure.
yeah. It's going to be all foreigners. Now, when Russia held it, they managed it okay, and it got all
And
good
they better,
reports.
they better be prepared to write a pro-Trump essay because if you malign this fella, he some a German tourist was locked up. The Frenchman was not allowed to come over. What kind of madness is this? How
I was
long will
reading,
we
I
tolerate?
was reading today there's a Canadian folk duo, two sisters. They were stopped somewhere, California way, I think it was. They traveled back and forth. They're doing folk tours. They've been there so many times, and they were stopped not by ICE, but just by regular police and taken separately into vehicles, and they had to basically prove their allegiance to the United States, despite by just the police, but just the guys in the street. They've got no authority to do that. They didn't even have a broken tail light, or they weren't black or using. They don't need excuses now. This is my thing. The police need no excuses, and thankfully, most of them are playing it okay. ICE isn't, and whatever. I'm just waiting to see the military rise up. The military really needs to do something about it.
Well, I understand there were some generals who finally spoke up.
Yeah.
Um, I I have been an activist for a long time. Part of being an activist means you have to build coalitions. So I've always made the argument that if you're 10% with me, you're with me. if,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're 5% with me, you're with me. And you know, I have always hoped that not everyone in the Republican Party or not every conservative was drinking the Kool-Aid, was, following this unfortunate fellow into his madness. But it's hard to see so many people be so unquestioning. I listen one little anecdote. Yesterday, I met with a group of progressive thinkers, right? Just good people who think in a progressive way. They're pro humanity, pro law, pro constitution, all those weird things. And they said, we're going to meet at this cafe. And I said, okay, great, I'll go. So I go, and I walked over to the proprietor and I said, excuse me, sir, what is your Wi-Fi password? Because we were asking questions and who knew what schedule and what was this and where was that activity. And he said, oh, our Wi-Fi is Trump 2020. And I was shocked. I said, oh, well, that's ironic. What an interesting, ironic thing to do, to have the connection to the world be Trump 2020. He said, oh, we're not ironic about it at all. We're totally pro-Trump. He's doing a great job. And I said, so you don't like science, you don't like people, you want people to believe one religion. So let me ask you, are vaccines a bad idea? Is the Department of Health a bad idea? Is the weather system scientist, this is a bad thing? He said, we live without them for hundreds of years. There's no reason why they can't all be dispensed with. This is a fellow who would rescind a Magna Carta because it might constrain the king. This is a fellow who, I said to my friends, I will never enter this establishment again because if we don't make sure that everything we do to support, it must be done to support someone who has a human value, someone who understands that we are all human. We have to be a nation of laws, because if we're not, then we're in a monarchy or worse. And I was so stunned. Brother, you and I are men who've traveled. We are people who understand. We are thinking people who consider civilization and culture. These are important things. To meet one of those people.
I mean, here's a perfect response. I say, we're done without coffee for hundreds of years. Just shut your shop. Just shut your shop, go home, sit in your house, go hunt a bear. Oh, we can't hunt bears then. Well, you used to hundreds of years ago, man. Go and do it now. It's like it's a freaking stupid argument. Stupid argument.
Let us return to the world of literature. But I support your book, and I'll be glad to mention it every time on the air. Okay. All right. So you say you basically thought of yourself as a writer when you were in your late teens, and you found that
Well, I
these.
started writing, yeah. I started writing. I didn't really think of myself as a writer, I just wrote as, a lot of people do. Um, yeah, that's just when I started doing it back then. And, gradually just over the years, just wrote stuff and wrote stuff. And just, I always used to carry a notebook with me. I've still got most of them here. I think there must be some missing, although I don't know where.
I've got
Um,
20 years of notebooks over on my shelf.
Well, I have, I know that at some point there is, because there is an awful poem written called Turns Up, which is my actual 100th poem that I wrote. That's how I know that timeline it. Turns Up, it's 100 poems, that I've written. But it's only like maybe about halfway through one book, so I'm not quite sure. They're not dated, unfortunately, but I'm not one for keeping stuff, I'm not a hoarder. I mean, I've kept all this, and at one point I was going to throw it away because I'd stopped writing back at the beginning of the 21st century. I hadn't written for ages, the odd thing. And I would chuck them away. My wife said, no, don't do that, don't do that. And I didn't. It's just, I don't like keeping stuff. I'm not a collector, so I'm not a hoarder. And it's like, I could use that. But I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I didn't. So
So when did you start reading in public?
that was only recently. Believe it or not, I had when I was 65, so we're talking just 7 years ago, I um, started putting on a storytelling event in Aberdeen, just real stories. It was called Everybody's a Story, which is ordinary people, extraordinary stories. Stolen, well, actually stolen from the Moth, the Moth broadcast that goes on in the state. I actually wrote to them and said, I'm going to do this. And they said, well, that's good luck with it. You can't use our name. And I said, well, I wasn't going to use their name, but, and they said, good luck with it. So with their permission, if you like, I took the format slightly. I didn't make it like they have it, where you must remember, you can read your notes, and I did that for a few years, which stopped at COVID, and I just never got back with it. And then the year before COVID, a friend of mine who passed a couple of years ago, she was part of an art project in Aberdeen, and she was putting on a fringe event with this art project. And she says, I'm going to put on one of your storytelling events, and I'm going to put on a poetry night event. So we drove into Aberdeen, stayed the weekend, went to the poetry event, and she says to me, have you got anything? And she never knew I wrote poetry. Nobody with my family knew I wrote poetry. And she says, have you got anything? I said, no, I don't have anything. But then at halftime, I wrote something on my phone. And then I said, I've got something, I'll go up and read it. And she went, okay. And I went up, I thought, well, here goes nothing. And it was literally a 30-second poem basically advertising my show the following night, which was a bit of a cheek. And it went down well. And even that short, 12-line thing, whatever it was, over well. And I thought, okay, I like that. And then I just started going along to this other event and then went along to some others and just then. And I thought, well, I can do that. And people like it. If they don't like it, I don't really care. But people, seem to respond to some stuff. And I thought, well, I can do this. That's fine. And then, obviously, with the great world of Zoom opening up during the pandemic years, it just helped. And it's got like I don't care. And I always say to young people when they're coming along, well, I don't. So you know what? They're coming along to hear you. They're not going to boo you off the stage. You're not a comedian. They don't heckle poets. And they're fine. And it's a good advice. If people don't like me or my work, who cares? Who
Do you
cares?
remember your first Zoom?
I do. I remember my very first Zoom. It would have been probably May of 2020, May or June, and it was one that came from Newcastle. I can't remember what it's called now, but it was run by Andy Talbot, Erin Garren, who was in Glasgow, I think she was, and Pam Benjamin, who run a radio station over in California. They co-hosted it, and it went out live on the radio station every night, every Wednesday, I think it was. So I just went along to that one, and I read a poem uh, called Northeast Midsummer, I think it was, and then I went along to Rose Drew's spoken word from York. That's the first two I did. And then the fabulous and utterly so missed Poetry in the Brew with Christian Hall from Nashville, midnight Saturdays with us, which was a really good one. Yeah, that's the first three I remember in order, and I rang the same poem at each one because it went over well, and I was confident doing it, and people liked it. So
That's
that's
great.
what I did.
Over the years, as you've watched Zoom evolve, uh, is there anything that you still find particularly charming about the Zoom poetry experience?
Uh, I do. I mean, I still like it. I know there's people that don't like it and people that's never done it. I think we're thinking of the guy's name, PJ Covington, poet from America. He won't do Zoom. I only do live stuff. He's been in one of my films. He does stuff like that, and that's fine. But I do like it because you're getting to meet people. Oh, you meet people on Facebook, but you actually see people reading, and you're seeing so many people, even now, 5 years after it started, if you like, people coming in, doing the very first Zoom and the very first, and they go, oh, I like that. And I think they get surprised when people are nice to them, and you think, well, what we're going to do? We're not going to say that was shit awful poem, It's just because it's all the fact you're doing it, the fact you wrote that, and the fact you're doing it, and it not written by an AI chatbot is perfect. That's it. It doesn't matter if it's a standard, um, you know, 4 verse stanza with, rhyme in every second. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it rhymes or feels whatever it is at all. It's you wrote it, and that's it. Yeah, it might need tweaked and whatever, and you do that, but then that's what it is. And I still don't mind if I write something and someone says, oh, well, maybe you should have done this or that, but then I'm like, yeah, okay, that would have worked too. No, well, I don't care. It's honest criticism.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let me ask you this. Um, I love to ask this kind of what I call a poetry process question. There's a school of thought that says you should write every day. just polish your craft whether you're inspired or not. Other people say, no, 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 only write when you're inspired. That's when the fire is there. That's when to do it. Where do you fall in that spectrum from regular practice to working only under inspiration?
Oh, I only work under inspiration. The only time that I don't, and I'll be honest, it's the time that I really like, and it's what honed my craft, if you like, is back again in 2020. It's only about a fortnight away. It's National Write Poetry Month, April. Which you write, you get a prompt every day, and you write a poem every day, and you usually post it on whatever group you're with on their Google Chat or whatever like that, Google Docs, and yeah, that's when I first started, and out of every one that I do with that discipline, every month's one I do, I get a few, what I think, good ones, proper ones out of it. And I do write every day during that period. And there's only once in the very first one I got stuck. I can't remember what the prompt was. And I actually took an old poem I wrote for my kids when they were little called Toy Town Train, and I changed a little bit about of it to make it fit with the prompt, whatever the prompt was. But apart from that, it's the only one I've ever half cheated on because I write, even if it's shit, it's that one time that I have the discipline, I'll write something every day, be it a haiku or just a two-line thing or a sprawling story like that one, Northeast Midsummer was. That
Yeah.
was that was 2, 3 pages or something like that. But yeah, but I do usually follow just whenever if something happens. Sometimes I've got a phrase I'll write down and then I'll come back to it. Like I've got one that I wrote yesterday. I've just got the title. It's called "Currently Unavailable," um, which I'm not quite sure where it's going to take me, but it's the title of a poem. It could take you anywhere, anywhere. So
Yeah, I love that perfect phrase that appears, and you go, okay, well, I may not write on it this second, but that I'm going to work that. I woke up one morning with the phrase, what was it? Oh, Art? No. Anyway, woke up with a phrase on aphids, the avuncular aphid. And I thought, that's interesting, the avuncular aphid. And I wasn't even sure what avuncular, I had a sense of what avuncular meant, but I wasn't sure. So I looked it up, and what I was thinking was to tell a story about a very happy, kind of bemused aphid. And when I read that avuncular meant kind of an older male figure, typically an uncle, who is happy-go-lucky, positive, supportive, that sort of
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Well, then when I did my research, because I always, whenever I start a poem, I do research on it for a science poem, and I learned that they're all female. They don't ever have sex. It's just women making eggs, and that when an aphid is born per se, that they already have not just their children in them, but they have the grandchildren in them too. So it's really a bunch of women. And I thought, well, the avuncular, meaning the uncle, is absolutely wrong for the aphid. But I went along with it anyway, and later it became an interesting poem.
Oh, avuncular is only male then, basically. It's
that,
not.
that's what that was when I looked it up in the dictionary I was looking at. That was their take on it. Yeah.
That's very interesting. You can't be avuncular granny or auntie or. Oh, that's strange. Yeah, I never knew that. Like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I wonder
And
if it's the I wonder if it's the uncle in the thing. I've uncle. That's
maybe, maybe. Well, there's so much wonderful Scottish literary history. Um, do you feel part of that tradition?
I no. I would tell you, I don't. I no. I it's a thing that it doesn't stick on my craw. Poetry in Scotland's there's great. I mean, there's loads and loads of poets. And as in one of my poems, say, though I'm proudly Scottish, I don't write Scottish. I I don't write Scottish, so I don't feel that. I don't feel I'm in that group. I mean, some of my poems have been, and they are. We keep going back to this one, Northeast Summer. It's about fake scenario around here, but it's not. I don't. No, I don't feel that I am. And I think the big Scottish world of Scottish poetry doesn't feel like I am either. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe just a slight, not paranoid, but almost paranoiacal kind of feeling. It's not. No, I'm Scottish and I'm a poet and I'm appreciated by so many people up here, but I don't feel going along in that tradition, and I don't get invited to to things. I mean, I get invited to local. I'm featuring again in Aberdeen this week on a live one that I did a couple of years ago and things like that. I get stuff like that, but I don't fit into categories. I don't think. No, maybe it's just me thinking that a bit. And I know these places have got a lot, you know, of people wanting to be part of stuff like that. I mean, there's a big festival we done last weekend called Stanza, which is a big popular one down in St Andrews. And I applied to be that. Never even got back to me. I put in one of my shorts to the films, and it got knocked back. And that happened. That's fine. Um, and whereas someone again, it's not about someone I know who lives in the south of England. His poetry film was in it. I don't know what it was like, but so it's not. Yeah, no, I don't. It seems to be. I don't follow along the same trail where it's the same faces at all these same events and fitting in with the Scottishness of it at all. No, I don't feel that way.
I was curious. Another thing I wanted to ask you is you are more than just a writer, more than just a poet. You also are a filmmaker. And I'm a multimedia artist myself. I work in a couple different mediums, and I think it's an interesting part of the art when you reach beyond one particular genre, whether it be painting or music or writing, that you combine these things. And you mentioned to me you have a project coming up where you're going to explore your own thinking about the topic of aging or life experience. What do you think? How does that add a dimension to you? Can you talk about writing versus writing as part of filmmaking or filmmaking as a completely separate element of your own art form?
It's just that it's just an extension. I mean, it came across by accident many years ago. Somebody said something, and I said, "Oh, well, you know me, Rick. Someone comes up with an idea and puts it to me, and I go, okay," and I run with that. And it just started with that, and it just becomes an extension of what I do. I don't feel the need. I know there's a lot of people feel the need to write either every day or I haven't written something for ages and I'm not a poet. Yeah, you've written two poems, you're a poet. If you're doing other stuff along with it as well. I've never been one for genre defining people. You'll get comedians who'll branch into chat shows, who branch into acting. And yet your comedians who go, why do you want to do that? I'm always a comedian, first and foremost. And I go, yeah, that's narrowing your spectrum. Some don't always do it good. Like singers going into acting, they don't always do it good, but I don't criticize them. It's like art's a big thing. If you can paint, you can filmmake, you can write, you can tell stories. It's all part of that person that you are. It's all exploring other fields and being part. It's all part of you. Because human being's a complex creature as well as being simple. So,
Absolutely. Okay, next question. What makes a good poet?
oh, no, that's a terrible question. No, it's a good question.
I
What
only
makes
ask
it?
enough questions of my friends, the poets.
Yeah, what makes a good poet? It's understanding what you're doing, I think. Whether it's by accident, I mean, I'm uneducated, as I put in one of my poems, I'm uneducated. I never taught poetry, was never taught poetry, and I would be crap at teaching poetry. Um, but it's understanding what you're writing about, even if your subject you don't understand what you're about. We're talking about a lot of stuff I do, beat stuff and twisty stuff. You don't have to understand all that, but understand how you're writing, what you're writing, how it's going to look. I always think there's three types of poet, or two and a half types of poet. There's performance poets, which you and I can do. We go out and we're just doing this. And then there's written poets, where you can sit and read their work, and that's fine. And if they was to read it out, it could be boring. It's just, it's on the page and it looks great on the page. But to read it out, it's not good. And then there's a one in between who works on the right, but they can read it. It could be, it's almost like a sitting down poet, and you've got to be reading this. Well, you're standing, you're reading this poem. They're not performing it. And it's understanding that and understanding what you can do within your craft, within it, and believing in it, whether others don't, because as you know, we all do hate poetry snobs with a vengeance, with an absolute vengeance. Because, oh, have you read Yeats? Have you read this? Have you read? No. Right, no. I know of them, and yeah, I've read some, but haven't studied them. And I've read that poem, I forget who wrote it, but it doesn't matter. It's like, don't be snobs. Don't. I hate
Yeah,
poetry snobs.
I know exactly what you mean. I call them academic poets. Bloodless.
You know, they know the theory of how to write something. It's like engineers. They come out and do a degree in engineering, but they've never held a spanner in their hand in their bloody life. They have not got a clue what the real world is. I'll tell you something. What I mentioned him is a friend of mine. She's a teacher in a university in mainland Europe, and she was saying to me the other day, and I don't know why they had this, and she teaches English, and they have a course. The course they're doing just now is slam. They're doing slam poetry course. You go,
What's your grade in slam poetry? Can
wow,
you say the
wow. I mean,
question?
I'm not a huge fan of slam, but, I find that they're doing it. But anyway, they had a class of first year engineers. And I don't even go there how it would work. We're not talking about high school where you have to do different subjects disregarding whatever your main body of work is. But they have them in, and she sent them down to write a poem did it on Google Docs so she could check it, keep up with it. And 2 days in a row, there's a bunch of them who used chatbot to write the poetry for them. And she said she came out of that classroom in tears and thinking, what's my job worth now? And it was only two small groups, 2 separate days. And the first group said, oh, well, we'll use it as a starting point to formulate. Yeah, no. And this both lot thought that they did no harm in doing it. No, I mean, it hadn't done any harm, but they both thought it was right. It was all right to do it. Now, the other type of people, using engineers as an example, maybe not a great one, but they come in, oh, we've learned this through chatbot. Yeah, but you've never held that spanner. You've never screwed which way to go. You've never worked out that in the physical world and how to do it. And that's the sad thing about it is, and it's not always easy. Another friend of hers put on a thing online today, a bunch of writing, a new 20 question, 20 sentences from, not sentences, paragraphs, short bits from a Poirot story. and you had to guess which one was chatbot and which one was human written. And I got only 9 out of 20. It's awful that I got that 9 out of 20. And tell you that a lot of the time it was guesswork because some of it was, you don't know. It was, so it's sad. It's sad that it ever comes to that. And hopefully there's enough of it to keep it going. It's just to go back to the question, know your work, know how to write. Don't, there's lots of devices. There's thesauruses, there's rhyming sites, and there's lots of technical stuff that you can use to help you write. But you write it. You decide that word goes with there, not some computer. Yeah. Again, with films, it's like, I'll use special effects, but I won't get the AI to do the whole thing for me, to do make a movie for me. I'll sit back and watch. No.
When I was attending a computer conference in the early 2000s, and this gentleman from Google was saying, it's just so wonderful. We've been able to fire artists. We've been able to get rid of writers. And the AI is just doing it. And in fact, most of the sports writing that you see nowadays, most of that's done by AI. They compile the information of scores and percentages and this and that and weather. What do we need people to write weather for? Because we've got a box full of phrases. We got only so many different kinds of rain and sleet and snow and fog, etc. What if the machines do that stuff? We need to get rid of all those people. I mean, my God, they want vacations and benefits and days off and pregnancies and oh my God, what a mess. Anybody have any questions? I put my hand up and I said, there are human beings who can do this work, whose work is based on a life experience. And when you replace a life experience with stolen phrases, with captured metaphors, with canned ideas, you're removing the humanity. And that's too high a price to be paid. And he had no clue what I was talking about. And I just said, where so many want to take this world is a very sad place. And since we see the visible signs in front of us that these people are gutting history,
Yeah.
is within our memory.
Yeah.
Is so appalling. How these people could be so bereft of morality is civilization. It's dependent, I think, on poets and singers to keep civilization alive because these people are happy to deep six it. They're happy to dispense with it. And if we could all become serfs again, they couldn't be happier.
And that guy doing that too. What if someone halfway through his intro there, someone says, right, you're gone. We've got to push this button now and the AI's got to do that for you. But no, out here. We don't need your introduction. I mean, we used it once with the drama group and to get a bank account as a drama group, we had to have like a constitution, right? I mean, what do we do with that? So our, if you like, our drama coach, she just put it into chat and got that out. And I thought, well, you know what? I have no objection to that because we can't do that. And it's not an artistic thing. It's it's a standard form. It's producer form for me. Then with stuff like that, that's absolutely fine. It's not creative. It's just, there's a bog standard form adapted to what we want it to be. And it's got its place in doing that. Not necessarily in offices, because you'll have people in offices that's their job, that's their skill set to do that. But you're right, and I think in a sad way that it's a lot of the younger generation is going down that line. I mean, they're quite happy to have a chip in their arm so they don't have to scan me, scan me. And I kind of get the easiness and convenience of that. All right, here you go, bus pass. Here you go, bank card. Here you go, proof of who I am. That's fine. I understand that to a point. But you lose your humanity. Nah.
Well, as we've come to the end of the question portion of it, I have one final question to ask you. Do you have a question for me?
Well, I have something is it in it. Yes, it's an interesting, and this one actually came. No, I had it a minute ago. Uh, our good friend, uh, Kathy Carson. Oh, where's it gone? There we go. She wrote a post on Facebook today that someone spoke to her after she did one of her live gigs. I got an email, what it was, and said when they watched their show, they wanted to run across the stage and hug Danielle. That's her character she does in her show, or shout hurrah when she had some wins. And she put, I guess that is the metric of my success, like evoking humanity and empathy. She put a great question is, what is your metric of success?
Well, my friend, I know enough history to know that great men and great women who have made their mark on our civilization, they've done it by helping people. They've done it by making this a better world. And I think you can boil that all down to making someone else happy. And I I learned this lesson very young that I know I will feel better if I make someone else feel better. So when I was faced with my own mortality right in my face, real close, I said to myself, if need be, I can go right now knowing that I have made some people laugh and I've made some people think and I've helped some people a little further down their road. And that's my measure of success. Um,
Yeah,
I'm ultimately, I may be a student of life and the world and all that stuff, but I'm ultimately a simple man. I really want to help people be happy and get them to think. So I think I've accomplished that to some extent with some folks.
oh, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting by everyone. I haven't looked at all the answers yet on our Facebook page, but it all comes out. When she asked me, well, my one of the and I first replied, and I just, what, and it was them when I got made Beat Poet Laureate last year. That was a great honor, someone from this little country getting that, and then going locally was being asked by the next town over to, as a poet, to be part of their Christmas festivities. It's something little. It's not money making. It's not international. It's like, yeah, that's, when you get asked to be part of Christmas lights switch on and you're a poet, even though you're playing to half a dozen people, that was absolutely perfect by me. Reaching that one little girl in the audience when I was there watching her and doing it, and she was right up at the barriers and laughing and such like that. I thought, yeah, that's that's it. It's like that, making somebody happy. Making, yeah,
Now,
it's basically that. Yeah.
now the fun part. I get to ask my brother Finn, would you read us some of your poetry, brother?
Well, I would have read that one Northeast thing, but I've no idea if it was, and I'm not going to go look up my books. I should
You
have
want
thought about that.
me to pause? I'll pause and you can go find it.
Okay, pause for a second. Let me see if I can find it. I have to go. Right, this is the first one I wrote, performed on any Zoom show anywhere. Um, and it's just one long. thing. It's called Northeast Midsummer. The time between sunset and sunrise, a valley full of mist. The type that lingers low, as you above it by the side of the road, just away from the road, gazing at the beauty, the serenity of the world at peace, and that singular moment of time, the sun barely warming the air, but the promise is there. The promise of a river to be seen, some greenery to dry out. A lorry delivering stock to Tesco goes by, shattering the silence. But just for one moment. One distracting and annoying moment. Then as quick as it appeared, it's gone. And a lone heron passes nearby. The sky still. Still and waiting for some more avian creatures to fill it, the tops of trees poking through the moisture, unsure as yet whether it's time to begin the day. That uncertain period in this part of the world when darkness barely breaches the fields and beaches, where, if you stand on the shore, arms outstretched, you can almost measure the sun going down in your left hand. Then, a short time later, after following the glow along the North Sea horizon, you can see it rise by your right. But wait, back by the roadside, the silence continues. More birds stir, some rabbits scamper in the field, in the other side of the field, where they pay no attention to you and your silence. The mist persists, not willing to give up its place where nature controls, and souls enjoy this timely silence. Another truck and a car or two, going where they have to go. Then just the natural order of life and beasts, a bee getting the pollen before the other bees, the buzzing sound like a near horn in the quietness, the absolute quiescence of the here and now. The light is changing now, less serene, less soft. The sun is forcing its warmth, but you still feel the chill. You lie there on the wet grass by the tracks you left, your vehicle not far away, the grey low clouds disappearing, faster now, but still taciturn around you, surround you. As the day gets brighter, your white seems lighter, your mood uncaring, sharing your thoughts with the insects crawling, not stalling as they alight on you. More noise, more cars, they stop. They look at the scenic view, and you, just out of sight. You try. It's getting colder now, and darker, and damper. Lights flash, and the silence now shattered. A siren. Too late. You stop moving, thinking. Your car upside down yards from you, glass shattered, some entangled in your hair. You care not, you care for naught, no thoughts left. Your eyes stare aimlessly. A fly lands on one. You don't blink, you don't move, you don't think. The ambulance men scramble down the bank, the dankness not hindering, no lingering for them. They reach the stillness that is you. Too late. Your natural light has gone out.
Beautiful.
Well, the
Beautiful.
prompt with that was natural light, and most people took it in a literal way. I didn't, as I tend not to, so.
Oh, that's lovely, brother. Really lovely. You know, to me, one of the powers of poetry is to take something and examine it. And while it might be seen as ordinary, it also is the eternal. It is the absolute, despite being the particular. And that dichotomy, that yin yang, is just so powerful, so amazing. You did it beautifully.
I quite often, when I write something, maybe less than but the start of a poem is often far away from what the end of the poem is, So I'll start with something which is just some words that it is, and then goes off into the, I mean, this one didn't, goes off into the real story with something. So to lead people somewhere, like that one was kind of deliberate to lead them in this nice, beautiful, serene, lovely autumn morning that, well, early summer mornings that you can get down here, like when it's light about 3 o'clock in the morning. And it is this mist hanging in the valleys. And you think you're describing a nature scene, but it's, some poor guys went off the road. And for 3 years after that, and I don't have them in order, or maybe one day, I've written three different poems and a poem which is follow on or leading into this one. Just by coincidence, I started writing. I went,
Right, right.
oh yeah, that one. The one I did was Mist, was last year's one. It was Mist. Looking at, you wind your windows down in the fog because you think you'll see better. You turn your radio off so you can think you'll see better. It's that kind of stuff. And at times you're just looking out, what's that? Ah, crash. Um, and I thought, well, it works with that one too, not deliberately, but it's just as it is. So I like taking people where often they don't think it's going to go, and they're still.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Please, brother, another.
Well, let's just bring something up from screen here. It's closer. The hand. Um, I wrote this short one yesterday. I did write a poem for World Poetry Day yesterday until uh, literally 5 to midnight my time. And and it's called, I actually did write it. It's called I Did Not Write a Poem Today. I did not write a poem today to celebrate the day it is. No word or line, no sections here that are in rhyme, no metaphors, no political rants. Humorous verse? Not a chance. No triumphant celebratory verses or otherwise bamboozling phrases, beat or paradoxical stories, or historical muses and long past sages. Acrostics plain or complicated lines? Yeah, I've told you, mate, not this time. No words are put here with any meaning, no voices in my head are screaming. World Poetry Day has just gone, and all I have is this and this alone.
Very nice.
Ironic. All right. And I shall. Oh, this is one of my. I like this one. So it's a. But you could call it a beat poem in its way. Um, this is from someone, I call it Cobra, and someone says to me, oh, you could have called it the last milkshake, which works as well. And it was an acrostic poem. There was a picture of a dusty, small, like takeaway diner, basically, outside somewhere. Just a few tables outside, and
Right,
I
right,
kind of.
right. I remember that picture. You had it as a backdrop a bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I altered it slightly. So it's called Cobra. Snake-eyed corner, rundown diner, deserted in the desert like some forgotten cameo in a wasted, shallow movie. Saving the best years of your lives, shaded beyond the memories of the last milkshake before the sun went down. Strung up in a hangover, hollow cause, negotiating your way out of negativity and endless other sister shared cheroots. As you hung about by the cardboard boxes, by the half-shut knife halfway house, now you sit in a temporary Mexican retreat, never forgetting where you started, with the trials and tribulations of corner coke dealers, down and low, Bleecker Street, couch surfing, seems so long ago, but only some of them are gone, whilst others are scattered to the wind. Blending into the dusty landscape where the matching tables and rust-backed chairs share evening silhouettes with cacti. The last stop before the next stop, which is no stop, the Amnesia Hotel. And too many forsaken neighborhoods in the journey of your life, calculated and separated. Reality with a side of pickles, endless refills with or without the sour cream. Helplessly hoping that the coffee grains of uncertainty have dried out enough to vanish into nature. And gritty goes without saying, worn out slabs, it's your lifestyle choice. And no one ventures too near the bare wires, which are safely out of reach. It's not a risk, just choices you've made. It's not a post-apocalyptic night storm that blew away the doubts and aspirations. Equal in its discernment and fulfillment. Like another turn for the sultry. Not the worst place to be. At least the cheese is fresh. And the middle bit of that's actually dedicated to my brother because when I was writing that, he was actually down in Mexico having a wee holiday. And yeah, a lot of that bit is to kind of his life. And he lives in New York, as you know, and he's really worried man just now with all the shit that's going on. Although he's got American citizenship just a couple of years ago, fortunately. Um, and his daughter was born American. But there was that thing where they were going to be saying like, oh, even if you were born here, you're a kid, you might not be get as an American citizen and get kicked out.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
first thought, my first thought was Reef. His mother's English, his father's Scottish, both American citizens. But it's Trump, and you never know the shit goes on. And the only good thing they've got going for them is the white middle class people, basically. That's it.
Absolutely. Do I remember he's a painter?
He's a painter, yeah. He's a painter.
Have him paint one portrait of Trump that's salutatory.
He paints a lot of environmental stuff now he's been doing
Well,
for
that's
years.
good. That's safe. And as
Really,
long as,
really,
as long as you're
really
not
good for the
urging that we
environment.
protect
Yeah,
trees and
yeah,
watersheds.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, let me share one of mine with you, a recent piece, and I won't be too caustic. Um, but you know how it is. Humor is the best defense for the powerless, right? This is called "Meet Me at the Plaza in Gaza." You've heard it. Meet me at the poolside bar. It's not too far. At the plaza in Gaza. It's all very nice. We stayed there twice. There's a charming little casino. It reminds me a lot of Reno. And when you ask for a shot, believe it or not, the drink is served from a pitcher forged from a converted cartridge belt. It's very chic and very svelte. The modest models there, the fashion can't compare. The clothing's made, the motif displayed is Kevlar bikini with a flak jacket stole. That's just how they roll. And you got to watch out on the beach because the lifeguards compete as sharpshooters. Replete. So make sure you bring your towel from the tower because after an hour on the sand, they might mistake your dark tan for some kind of commando. They might not understand, though, you're one of the guests, so you can guess the rest. Unless you've confessed in the state of undress, your testimony under duress and even in a stressed position, which we know is in torture, can damage the furniture and may mar your stay at your holiday in Gaza. You're never complete until you're from your seat in the theater where you get to hear the children's chorus where they implore us for food. And I'm told it's not rude to leave them starve right there in the yard. But the poolside cabana's not even got a banana. You got to understand what they've done with the place. The rubble's gone. It's now replaced with a five-star cafe with starving starlets galore. There's so much fashion and more fascist fashion galore. Hardly any, well, not too much gore. The casino's complete. And while there's still an occasional bombing, let me point out instead that Givenchy awning is above your head, and time on the shooting range is still mandatory at this stage. For every looter that you're the shooter, you can claim a stack of chips. So, hey, go ahead, let her rip.
Just one of his sensible ideas, huh?
Yeah, who would object? Hey, there's profit to be made. Come on, where's your priorities?
Yeah, I know, my God, yeah. So I
I,
think this has been great again. I think it's going to be interesting when I do get around to doing this Trump book to see the. I mean, there's no rush because he's here for a while, so
I,
he's
you know,
not going anywhere.
the one thing
Sadly.
we've got going for us is their stupidity. Between the backstabbing and their stupidity, they may cure themselves. Who knows, right?
Oh my God! Every now and again, you get things popping up on reels. These reels that come on Facebook or Insta and things like that. Uh, and there was one I watched today, and I don't know when it was taken, but it was in the streets of America. And the guy had a board up with an outline of the map of the world, just basically that map of the world, right? And he says to people, right, what are you, Republican or Democrat? They went, oh, Democrat. And he says, okay, point to a country and tell me what that country is. That was it, right? Point a country. Some of them pointed to China and said Russia. Some of them pointed to, and one guy said, where's Mexico? And he pointed to India, you know? And it's like, there was just four or five of them, and maybe a lot more got it right and things like that. But you're picking out these four or five that cannot tell any country at all. They have no idea. And they say, what's that? Oh, it's a country. That's the one guy went, no, Africa. No, that's a continent. Oh, Europe. And he was pointing to Asia. And I'm pointing to Asia. And it was like, no, they're continents, countries. Name a country. And another one I saw some time ago about young kids, high school, whatever. And it was like showing them pictures of flags. And one was like a Welsh flag or something of it. Oh, wasn't that something to do with LGBTQT or, for Scottish? What's that one? It was like, no idea at all. And you're thinking, I mean, it's probably folk here too. You don't get me wrong, possibly it's folk here, but you're thinking, this is the world. This is when we know more, we can find out more, we can see more than our parents and our grandparents could ever know. You can find everything like this, a phone in your hand, 2 seconds, you can find out anything, be it real or not real, but you can find out. Someone says, oh, what's that? Hold on 2 seconds. Oh, that means that. Like you do your research, what does that word mean? Just like 2 seconds, you can find it out. And yet, they haven't got a clue where a country is, what this flag is. You'll see it, name a country, it starts with this. A or something, they go, Africa. It's not a country, Stuff they haven't got a clue. What kind of world? I'm glad. That's why I enjoy being my age. We have a limited time left on this planet. And we have to leave it for our grandkids and great grandkids and things we have just now. And it's like, why
I
would you want to get kids into this world, man? Why would you
sadly,
want
sadly, it is explanatory as to why they want to kill education because they want stupid people. They like them. They're more malleable. And
to?
I had often said, I taught both high school, I taught college, and I taught in the private sector. And I would say, if you don't have a knowledge of history, if you don't have a knowledge of geography, how can you be an informed citizen? How can you make any kind of sensible decisions and guidance for the civil servants who theoretically serve us? How can you make an intelligent decision? So when I have a charming neighbor who is very Christian, and they're luckily they're not poisonous kind of Christian. They're the good-hearted kind. I asked him because he's a very solid Trump supporter. I said, which of the invasions do you favor most? Which invasion will be most profitable? The glorious invasion of Grenada, Greenland, Panama, Mexico, Canada, our pending war with Europe, certainly will be allied with Russia and China. Which of these do you think is best? What should we do first? And he looked at me and he knew he was talking to someone who actually thinks. So he had to watch his language. He said, well, Rick, I think what we should do is negotiate with Greenland. I said, no. That's not on the table. He didn't suggest that maybe we should debate and discuss or have a plebiscite with the people of Denmark who now run Greenland. He said he's going to grab it, and he's going to grab Canada. And if Mexico doesn't jump through the next hoop, then we'll be in. I said, he's not about negotiations. Beside being a darn bully, and who loves a bully except another bully? It is, you know, I used to worry when my parents or their generation would say, "Man, I'm glad I'm going to be gone soon. Geez, you guys, good luck. You know, this is whoa."
Yeah.
But I certainly understand where they were coming from.
But it's even more scary now. This is the whole thing. It's even more scary now.
Have you ever seen?
They haven't learned from history. They're obliterating history. Yeah, especially
Be
the,
allergic.
yeah, yeah. They're just, just even stupid things like, doing away with, oh, we can't call it, the bomb, this, Enola gay anymore because it's gay. What? Gay means happy. Gay is a person's name. It's not like a gender affirmation. Like that, man.
It's undermining their masculinity, and they can't have it.
Yeah.
Well,
But
sir, what?
the military that used to be based like they all did back in the 19th century, whatever, they. Came from different parts of the country. So the military from up here was the Gordon Highlanders, because the area is Gordon Highlanders. And there used to be a hotel in Aberdeen. I think it used to be a song as well, called the Gay Gordon. And, it's a dance as well, the dance. That's a Highland dance, the Gay Gordon. And it just means he's a happy soldier, right? And maybe about 20, 30 years ago, it changed. They dropped the gay and it was just the Gordon Hotel. Um, I kind of get that to a point because it's like, and not want to lose customers. They weren't anti-gay. They were just, it's, but again, you think, well, what? It's a historical freaking thing. It's a historical thing. Hopefully, I mean, nobody calls a kid Hitler now in the past 50 years. So hopefully in the past next 20 years, 50 years, nobody will call that kid Donald. As simple as that.
Would you read us one more or two more, sir?
Yeah, let me bring something up on here. Well, I'm was asked to write a poem, and first of August, it's Richard Burton, the actor's 100th birthday, and there's a project coming out of Wales where they've got 100 poets to write a poem about Richard Burton
Oh, how
or
nice.
something related, and it's going to be a book, and it's going to be a like podcast with videos and whatever. And I was asked to do this. Apart from, again, it's research. I know nothing much about Richard Burton apart from he was in some films and married and he's from Wales. So, I got a different one. This is called Teacher's Protege. Mr. Jenkins, sir, it's a boy. And Daddy and I beamed. And it's Edith Maud, her 12 of 13, in the miner's arms as he sunk another pint that night, just like any other, not knowing they'd only 2 more years to share before mid-century mining dust took another life away too soon. And Sister Sis took over, looking after her brother, being more of a mother than any other mother could be, said he, in the 3-bedroomed grinding grime down Tyebach Way, least not the down pit black and grey. So breathe, then leave, and jump from job to boys in blue and sing and bring that voice to shake the earth. And brides and princesses and proudly left, bereft of the love of Churchill, that racist, hateful war man, Hugh man, on the opposite side of the political divide, but never to go gentle into that night. That's basically Richard Burton from his birth to his death in 3 short stanzas. Let's do one more, and let's do this. Let's do one of my anti-Trump poems. But it's
Please.
actually less of an anti-Trump, although it is, but it's more of my genuine fear for you citizens of the United States. It's called "A Life is Worth 1,000 Lives, a Hug is Worth 1,000 Words." When a blue rose is all you have left to remind you of a love you lost, as they were sent back to a country they no longer know, by immigrants who hate immigrants and want to rob you of your life because you aren't rich like them. Saving money so they can spend more money playing golf and save more money. It's funny that. These weeks of the start of the end of things only brings tears and fears for the sick and older years, where Mrs. insert name here will have no say. The cowards who pretend to care, still blissfully unaware that they are losing their rights, accepting lies just because the words were said by the man who's not right in the head, and the world looks on in dismay. Whereas both parties are to blame for this shame. The glorifying bluster of thinking they are top dog and stars and stripes before each game. Enough already. Frog marching democracy out the door forever and evermore. Do it now. Stop waiting. Can't you see what he is creating? In some years to come, not long I think, the downtrodden, beaten, scared and marginalised are on the brink. They will want to escape the so-called land of the free, where nothing is free, and be the next generation of refugees.
Bravo.
That's what I fear. I do fear that okay, the rich and good luck to them some have moved away to other countries. Britney Spears already gone out of Mexico, and people have moved to other places and things that them can afford and be safe in that country, but they're getting out. But my issue comes when it comes down to the people who can't afford, the people whose Social Security is being stopped, whose Medicaid is being stopped, and what are they going to do? They're going to be, they'll be crossing the border to Mexico. They'll be crossing the border up to Canada. They'll be jumping in the boats to sail round to Costa Rica or wherever, in Cuba. I genuinely have a fear of that happening when the so-called rich West becomes the refugees.
Well, Sam Clemens used to say, history doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes.
Yeah,
Let
it does.
me share
Yeah.
one last one with you before I ask you to read your final one, brother. This is on a completely different note. This is one of my tributes to the wonderful poets that I have had the great honor to speak with over the years. It's called A Friend. A friend is someone who laughs with you, even if you've escaped quite recently from the zoo. A friend will stand by you through thick or thin, even if you never win. A friend will hand over their umbrella, even if they're generally ill-tempered and a suspicious fellow. A friend will lend their dog, even if you're standing there precariously teetering on a log. And you may find a friend in me, even though I'm sinking in the deepest part of the Zuyder Zee.
Well, I get finished with a positive one. It's one that I don't get depressed. I think I've been depressed a couple of times in my life, but this other day I was just feeling like not ill, just one of these days. And this is called papier-mâché pipe dream. Rarely, but now, a time when my confidence is parchment paper thin, the cold outside permeates within the very bones that support me, grown like an old, unfinished and out-of-tune symphony. Showing no sympathy to the situation that my dislocation is. Uninterrupted sleep disguises the constellations of my thoughts and the needs to share, oblivious to those that skip past. It's not an urgency, but what rattles like the aging osseous matter is the superficial rainfall that tried to wash me away, as if my existence is only papier-mâché pipe dreams, an afterthought in their pretend hierarchy. Tomorrow, though, I shall see the sun as it's meant to be, as it's meant to do, drying out the dampness of the solitary day and finish the notes in order as they're meant to be, in harmony and playing loud and clear, the song and melody of my reality. There's always up. There's always up.
Always, always.
Up.
Thank you so much, my friend, and always an honor to spend a moment or two with you and to learn a little bit more about Finn. That is a happy day.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. And thank you for having me again. It's been wonderful. But I have to go now and make dinner.
Okay, you go get dinner and I'll go do some other stuff. Thank you again, brother. Good to see you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much indeed, Rick. See you in the Zoomosphere.